I was a competitive gymnast when I was younger, then went to musical theater school, became a professional dancer, was doing shows in Las Vegas, and met some circus performers. And it seemed like a perfect amalgamation of gymnastics and dance. You get to dance in the air on different apparatuses. So as I like to say, the circus bug bit me. When I came back to Toronto, I found a coach that actually was a dancer first. The rest is history. I got hooked very quickly. I was doing one class a week, and then all of a sudden 3 or 4 classes a week. Then I was a professional circus performer, teaching people. I now own a circus studio. I still perform. My main apparatus is aerial silks. That's the one that looks like curtains hanging down from the sky. And life is a circus. I'm a redhead. I have freckles. I need to go to the dermatologist each year because I worked on a cruise ship when I was early 20s, loved the sun, was burnt a bunch of times. So I thought, I should start visiting a dermatologist. So went for a few years in a row. One of my best friends, we were out at a juice bar one day and she said, "That's a weird mole on your knee." I liked it at the time because I have brown freckles everywhere and it was a little black mole and I thought it was cute. I disregarded it and then it stayed with me and started to bother me. I think I met with her that summer, went to Florida, Miami for a friend's big birthday party. And after that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get it removed because that's what I thought at that time. So went back to my derm with concerns. I think it was a second or third time. And he had said it was fine. It was fine. I asked him to remove it. He said, "It's still fine. Don't worry about it. But I'll remove it anyways." Wasn't a big deal. And I think a day or two later, he called and said, "You've got melanoma. Here's your appointment at the local cancer center," which was completely unexpected. Super shocking. It was over the phone, which I don't think was super appropriate. And that started everything. A million phone calls all the time, unlisted numbers, all of these appointments, people telling me about 5-year cancer survival rates, which I didn't even know about at that time. Everything was very rushed. I put this in my book that I was in, no joke, the waiting room 5 hours to have a 5-minute appointment. That's it. I put in the book that I got a little, what I like to call my welcome to melanoma package with sunscreen. And when asking, I don't know who gave it to me, a nurse or someone that I never saw again, "Doesn't this have carcinogens in it?" And they disregarded me. And it was just like, follow in line, talk to these people, get the mole removed, which was one of the worst experiences of my life by far. It was a wide margin excision because when they first tested it, they said it wasn't super deep, but there was a lot of activity. So they wanted to take a big chunk out of my knee. And I said, okay, so I had the appointment. I went in. I had a show the next day. And I sort of got cold feet when I was in there. And I said, I'm doing an aerial show tomorrow. Is it going to be possible with this? Or maybe it was a week later. I forget the timeline. And they said, you might not be able to walk very well. So I postponed it. Did the show, which I'm very glad that I did because it was a big show for me. Went in to get it. And I was out for a long time. I couldn't walk for weeks. It kept on getting infected, which was no fun. I don't love blood. Maybe it's psychosomatic, but the whole thing felt very impersonal. But at one point I was like, something's going to come out of somewhere really soon. I need to go to the washroom now. I left, it was bleeding everywhere. And I had like this whole very dramatic moment in the mirror where I was gray-green because I was totally in shock. No one gave a shit. They were describing the thing and cutting me up and doing the thing. No one gave me any Valium or anything, which I totally should have had some. I told them I was squeamish. I don't like blood. It just felt very conveyor belt-esque and I hated it. It was awful. And I left and I remember shaking excessively for hours afterwards. I don't even know what it was. Just my nervous system was gone. So that was not fun. It was the end of the day and it was just awful. And I'm a pretty strong person. I can deal with stuff on my own. Well, that was awful. I'm 33. I just got a cancer diagnosis. It was awful afterwards. They said, results came back, not good. We need to remove lymph nodes, all of your lymph nodes, which I was not cool with because at that time, it was a lot of mental gymnastics. If I could rewind, that's the one thing I would not have done because it wasn't curative. It didn't make a difference with regards to what approach I wanted to take because at that time I had already decided I'm not doing this. I'm not going down this route of horrible outcomes. 5-year survival rates that I don't even remember what they were, but they were not good, less than 50%. I had watched one of my best friends die of cancer. She did well. She did do some conventional treatment, but would bounce back. But then the fear would take over and she would get a new treatment trials. And in the end, I remember the last trial that she did took her out in 6 months in an awful way. I wasn't a stranger to alternative medicine. It was definitely in my radar. The typical story, my dad had been a mess for 10 years prior to that. I had fixed it. Obviously not enough because I had a cancer diagnosis, But I remember talking to my boyfriend, my now husband at the time, and he was like, maybe just hear them out. And I was like, yeah, I'll hear them out. But in my head, I was, not going through this, getting 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, cut up here, and just tossed out. Everyone in the waiting room looks like their foot is half in the grave and they're passing around white sugar cookies. And I was like, this is nonsense. This is such nonsense. So it didn't resonate. And I was like, my gut's not in it. And my gut is usually pretty bang on. So I'm out. I did get my lymph nodes tested, and they only took out 3, and 2 of the 3 came back cancerous. And then they were like, we need to, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I cannot take this anymore. The stress of me waiting for my outcomes and all that. So I have not tested since. I see my people, I do my blood work, and I didn't feel sick ever. I had a mole on my knee. I felt fine. Definitely there was stuff that needed to be improved for sure within my life, health-wise, mental health-wise, physical health-wise, for sure. But I had a naturopath, so I went to see her and I said, do people heal cancer? And she said, yep, all the time, absolutely. So started on some stuff with her. I also have an iridologist, natural medicine guy as well that I went to. And these appointments were 5 hours long. And the timeline of my life from how were you born, naturals, C-section, were you vaccinated, did you break any limbs, the whole gamut about all things health, which is a huge difference than the 5 minutes in the hospital. They were great. I continued to research other things. I found Gerson, and I found that they had a really good outcome with skin cancers. I was burning the candle at both ends way too much. I lived on a cruise ship and in Vegas for a few years, which means my liver did not love me. I needed a revamp, and I didn't actually tell a lot of people about my cancer diagnosis, and people still don't know. My inner circle, people do, but most don't, just because I got some negative feedback right at the beginning. I'm a pretty tough person, but I was super fragile. People do heal. There's multiple ways to do it. What resonates with me? Action. That was key for me to have that plan and not be derailed, because I was quite derailed at the beginning. I'm actually happy it happened because it sort of made me go, nope, this is my journey. And truthfully, no one really cares. I mean, I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of people that care about me, but I didn't have people knocking down my door being like, where are you? I haven't seen you in a while. No one cares. Everyone's up in their own business. Sometimes people said, why are you so orange? I've got red hair, I've got freckles, so I'm sort of orange yellow as it is. And then I was juicing 12 juices a day. So I was a bloody carrot. There was a question like that, and I just said, I'm on a juicing protocol, try to fix some stuff. And that was it. No one really cares that much. It was daunting at first. I had to have some chats with some people that wanted to shout it from the rooftop. Hey, Jamie's got cancer. She's shoving coffee up her butt and she's and I was like, no one needs to know any of that right now. Just let me do my thing. Let me get through this. At the time of diagnosis, I was juicing a little bit here and there. I didn't know what a GMO was or any of that. Immediately, all organic, obviously a ton of supplements right away. I found Ann Wigmore right away and all the wheatgrass stuff. So I started that, and because I was a little tenacious, I went a little too quickly into that. And I remember doing 1 shot a day, 2 shots a day, 8 shots a day, and made myself quite sick. Oops, it was fine. But the whole Hertzheimer effect, I think it's called. But yeah, sort of revamped all that stuff. I mean, hardwired all internet in the house, grounding sheets. We went really crazy with everything. My husband was right on board. It's turned into a big passion for us. Not a day goes by that I'm not reading something health related. There's so many summits out now. When I first started, there was maybe a summit a month about sleep health, or about the Truth About Cancer series started shortly, I think, after I got diagnosed. So I'm always switching a little bit here, tweaking a little bit there. I'm 43 years old and I still hang from the sky like I'm 23, even just for recovery and all that stuff. I'm always tweaking, finding new supplements and all that, modalities. In general, it was a big revamp of everything. When I went down to the Gerson, they said no exercise, and my life is exercise. And I exercised quite vigorously. And they said, no, you need to rest. And I was like, I don't know how to rest. I would do yoga and I would go for walks. But when I came back from the Gerson clinic, it was a full-time job. I don't think that everyone has to do exactly what I did. For me, that's what made sense to me. But it was a wake up very early and start the regime. If I'm not juicing, I'm having a juice, or I'm doing a coffee enema, or I'm meditating, or I'm visualizing, or I'm going to get acupuncture, or maybe I'm sneaking in a 10-minute walk. I'm rebounding a little bit. When it's nice outside, I'm doing some yoga on the deck, and I'm taking naps. I napped like a toddler. I would nap 2 times a day for an hour each, and I needed it. I was exhausted. I revamped everything. I was eating McDonald's beforehand and going out drinking every single night. But I think it was more the energy thing for me because I'm an entrepreneur, performer, teaching all the fitness, teaching all the dance, teaching all the circus, performing, running an entertainment company. It was nonstop go. And I guess I was still nonstop go with the healing, but in a very different way. So that was the big shift for me. I don't wish that part of my life didn't happen. I'm very glad it did. And I truly believe, even in my small group of people that I've told or know, that I'm like one of those health freaks because I am the person that juices every day and doesn't drink a lot anymore. And I used to drink a lot. And all the other things that I do, we've got a cold plunge outside and Gus and Jamie are sort of crazy. But I think that it's also benefited a lot of people. I never dole out advice. I know people to send people to. I would never be that person who's like, I think you should, because I think there's professionals out there that really know their stuff. I feel like I'm really good at sending people to people. It was hard and it was scary. And I know it was hard for my husband. I mean, he didn't work for that time. His brother helped him out and my mom helped us out. And like people sort of came together to help out. I really feel like we all benefited from it. I'm tough enough to have been able to go through it. I was able to sort of go, oh gosh, and have a big old pity party for myself for, I don't know, probably a week. Because I think I got back right before Christmas. I'm like, this is awful. My life is awful. My life has ended. And I quickly snapped out of it and sort of said, okay, game plan, let's go. And from then on, it was interesting. It was interesting what I was going through because there were so many things that I probably don't even remember that happened. I had a secondary tumor that popped up right after my lymph node dissection, right on my incision line. And it was 3 months later, and everyone seems to pop up 3 to 6 months later. And it was big. After I went to Gerson, grew quite a bit. The lovely people at the clinic provided so much relief right away because I had seen all these doctors that had sad eyes about me maybe surviving 5 years or not. I went there and it was like, happy and welcome to this. And we're going to juice and you're going to learn about this and it's going to be great. And I remember walking in and being like, yep, this is where I'm going right now. This feels right. The tumor, when I started the protocol for, I think the first month, it grew to about an egg size, which is large and sort of scary. But I was like, nope, we're good. People can call me woo-woo or not. But when I started visualizing right away, meditating every single time I did an enema, which was 5 times a day. So that's a lot. It's like at least 5 times 20 minutes of hunkering down. When I was able to start visualizing, it disappeared. It was a battle for a while. When I got my head around it, it slowly started to disappear. I knew from reading so much right away that it was just a healing response and that I just needed to help my body to heal fully and completely and all would be good. I forget who said it. They said, you need to visualize the future. You need to visualize yourself in the future. What do you want to do? What are some really big key points? At that point, I wasn't married. Okay, I'm going to get married to Gus. I've been with Gus for a million years. We just haven't actually got married at that point. And I wanted to go to Costa Rica and learn how to surf. So I would also visualize that. I had a whole thing pending the time of day. Sometimes it was just on the tumors. Sometimes it was on the beach. No one wants to get chemo, but no one wants to get radiation. We're told that that's the only way, but it's just not. There are so many people out there that have made their lives better because of cancer. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's daunting at first, but once you wrap your brain around it and go, okay, I'm going to go inward and see where my little inner compass leads me and what feels right, that's when healing happens. When I first had the mole taken off of my knee, I thought my life was over because I wouldn't be able to do aerial for months. And then the results came back and I was like, holy moly, I have 2 years of not doing this. So there was definitely a loss with that, but muscles come back. It was a long 2 years, but it was also a really short 2 years. And it was also a wonderful 2 years and big growths happened. Friendships that you thought were better weren't, which is, I think, good because you learn who your people are. It's a little bit too much for some people, which is sad, but there's other people that step up. So you're like, wow, this is a solid human that I'm so happy to have in my life and is bringing me joy in a time that's very scary and helping me through. And I also think that watching someone go through stuff also reciprocates. It helps other people.